Hi, I'm Sophie from Base Consulting, and in my last post I mentioned that the three topics I'd chosen to talk about were the ones that make me smile, that have been a big part of my life. Bernoulli's equation was the topic at A level that absolutely fascinated me and led to me studying aeronautical engineering and then fluid mechanics for a master's. Now, there were many topics at university that I struggled with, and truthfully Fourier transforms still perplex me to this day. But like many people, I also love a really good puzzles. Now, I prefer maths puzzles like Sudoku, but I've been known to attempt a crossword, and once or twice in my life I've actually solved them, but I've never won the prize of sort of £20, so it's not really a viable income for me. Now, really tricky maths problems can have a prize of up to $1 million, so they've got to be worth looking at. Now, the puzzles and problems I'm talking about are generally known as the millennial problems, which were identified by the Clay Institute in 2000. And they're problems that have been around for a really long time. In fact, the Riemann hypothesis was talked about by David Hilbert in 1900, and 119 years on, it's still not been solved. But the problem I want to talk to about today are the Navier-Stokes equations. And you don't even have to solve those to win the prize. You've just got to make substantial progress in them. And along with that, you'll have the satisfaction of having solved a really tricky puzzle. Now, the Navier-Stokes equations model any moving fluid, from glaciers to ketchup to air, and are based on Newton's second law of motion, that mass times acceleration equals force. Now, in the Navier-Stokes equation, acceleration is the change of velocity with time, while the force is the total of pressure, the stress, and other external forces acting on the fluid. When a fluid moves smoothly, it's like a well-oiled team or a lazy river. Everything moves in the same direction and there's an even distribution of work. But then something happens to disturb the flow. It starts to become turbulent. Small groups of fluid start to break off. Work isn't evenly distributed anymore, and you get concentrations of energy that start to make the fluid swirl. They're called eddies. And within those eddies in the swirling fluid, smaller and smaller eddies form. And the Navier-Stokes give a really good explanation of what we actually see in practice. So what's the problem? Well, remember I said that the Navier-Stokes are based on Newton's second law of motion? Well, as the eddies get smaller and smaller, you get to a point where the velocity is infinite. So you can't calculate acceleration anymore. And in maths terms, the equation blows up. So how can an equation that does a really good job at explaining of what we see, but can't actually explain how the fluid moves, be true? And that's the intriguing puzzle of the Navier-Stokes equation. It works, and it doesn't work. And it's a conundrum indeed. And to the person or team that can make substantial progress on solving the equations, and remember one of the millennial problems has already been solved, then worldwide accolade and tea and cake await.